Welcome, everyone. Today's podcast, we got a very special guest that we're really excited about. I mean, won every single award there is in college basketball.
Every single one.
Can name it AP Player of the Year, Wooden Award, Naismith Award, multiple time Big Ten Player of the Year, All American, and All Big Ten first team as well. Current two-way player for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Luka Garza.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate you hopping on. It's great. So, kind of to get right into it, I want to touch base on really your basketball experience growing up, but then how your recruiting process went or your experience went before you got to Iowa. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up in a big basketball family. I was really fortunate. My dad played in college, University of Idaho. My mother played pro in Europe. My aunt played pro. Uncle played pro. Grandpa played in college. So everyone around me played a game. The basketball was put in the cradle. So it was something that, I was drawn towards, but it was, kind of given to me as an opportunity super young. And I fell in love with the game at a super young age. I would go around the mall at like 4 years old, dribbling and losing the ball everywhere, stuff like that. So that was always basketball was always something I loved first before I kind of dedicated my whole kind of life to it.
Yeah.
And my dad kind of had a passion for teaching the game, and he kind of took it upon himself to like dedicate part of his life to seeing me kind of get to all my goals and kind of reach my potential as a basketball player. I still work out with him to this day. So that's meant a lot to me. But my recruiting process was interesting. I was a freshman in high school, and I was averaging about 4 points a game on a varsity team. And my dad was in the stands with my grandpa. They told me this story like years later. And my dad went to my grandpa. He's like, "You think you can play D1?" And my grandpa's like, "No."
No faith in you.
And so that was tough. But I was 6'7", but I was super uncoordinated. I could shoot the ball, but that was pretty much it. My dad had taught me how to shoot. I had some good footwork, but I was so slow and like size 18 in 7th grade.
Sheesh.
So
Size 18, be not.
Exactly. So the recruiting process was slow for me at the start. I didn't really know what my future was. That summer, I just played AAU with a bunch of different teams. I played 3 different teams. It was just kind of like trying to get my name out there, and had a big summer. I grew a little bit. I went from like 6'7", about 185 my freshman year to like 6'10", 240 as a sophomore.
Damn.
So it was like a big change in that summer. And that's when I started to get a little bit, some recruiting coming in. My first offer was from Binghamton.
Okay.
Which is, I think statistically probably the worst Division I basketball program, but I had a friend who went there and he loved it. And so that was my first offer. I was super hyped. I was actually like on a basketball court when I got the call. I was like outside working out with my dad. I got the call, and that was my first offer. So from there, it was pretty slow. A couple mid majors came around, and I had surgery on my foot after my freshman season, and I was just getting back. And this was like literally one of my first tournaments back, and we were playing, I think in Atlanta or Georgia somewhere, and it was a dead period, and that means no coaches can attend, no D1 coaches could be there. But we were playing all Iowa attack, and on the other team was Connor McCaffrey. So his father, Fran McCaffrey, could be at the game because it was his dad, and even though he was a D1 coach. So,
a little loophole.
Yeah, exactly. So before the game, they're hyping us up. They're like, Iowa's head coach is here. And I was playing with Team Takeover at the time, and they're like, big opportunity. No other coaches can be here. So like, whoever plays well, it's going to be good for you. And I ended up having a really good game. And 2 weeks later, I was at the Nike Elite 100 camp.
Yep.
Connor was at that camp as well.
Okay.
Again, the dead period, but Fran was there. And all of a sudden, I started noticing Connor was playing on the court like 4 courts away from me, and Fran's at my game. And I was like,
wait a minute.
Something's happening here.
Yeah.
And I met Connor there. He was telling me that his dad really liked my game and stuff like that. After that camp, he offered me. And so that was my first kind of high major offer. So I was super hyped. And that was like, going into, my junior year. And then my whole junior year went by, and it was, again, just a bunch of mid-majors. Not really much attention from the high major schools until like 17U EYBL season started with Team Takeover. And then, I kind of put myself on a more of a national stage. I was somebody got hurt. I was like the late invite to the NBPA or the top 100 camp in Charlottesville. Made the All-Star team there. That like helped my I was number 100 after that on the ESPN 100 with my name spelled wrong. So
how'd they spell it? How'd they spell it?
How it started.
How'd they spell it?
Luke.
Oh, wow.
They put Luke?
Yeah.
They didn't get, wow.
So, but for me, I just kind of reward the loyalty of Coach McCaffrey. He was there from the moment he saw me. He loved my game throughout my whole high school career. When high majors were kind of like skeptical, and then they all kind of came around at the end. But it meant a lot to me. He had been there the whole time. So, and it was probably the best decision I could have made. I think all of the other schools in my top 5, top 10 all the head coaches got fired. So it was
the right decision.
Yeah,
right?
I kind of avoided.
Well, that's cool that you had that experience, especially with Connor and then his dad, Fran, kind of having that loophole and seeing you at different events when you weren't technically allowed to. If you had to pick like your second choice, if you had a clear-cut choice, where would you gone other than Iowa?
Yeah, so Louisville was probably second. That was Rick Pitino at the time. So he ended up leaving like a month later after I visited and stuff like that. But I think for me it was they had won a national championship. There was like so much buzz around the program at that time, and I saw that. That was one of the big schools that I felt like I wasn't being recruited by, and they kind of came around it. IU was also in there. Tom Crean at the time.
The Hoosiers.
Yeah, I visited Alabama, and it was Avery Johnson at the time, who was the head coach. He had worked a lot with Brooke Lopez in the NBA, and he kind of like saw the similarities in our games. And so I they brought in a really good recruiting class that year with Colin Sexton and a bunch of other guys. So there was a lot of good programs. Also, staying home at Georgetown would have been something I thought about as well. But at the end of the day, like I said, it was the loyalty part. I visited. And some schools kind of wanted me to be more of a stretch guy who just shot threes, and some schools just wanted me on the block. And Fran was basically like, "We're gonna put you everywhere." Our offense is, there is no offense. We have set plays, but
literally,
we have set plays. But when we come down the court, most of the time we're just running motion. We're just playing off each other, setting screens, reading the game. And that helped my basketball IQ a bunch. But also for me in my game, it allows you to kind of be in so many different positions on the court, and that allowed me to get better and excel, and find some success.
Yeah, I know you said that. Obviously, you went to Iowa, and then how many visits did you go on prior to that?
I went on a bunch of unofficials. I think I took only 3 or 4 official visits. Actually, 2. Louisville would have been an official visit, but they couldn't at the time because they were sanctioned. And I had a bunch lined up in the fall, and I told Coach McCaffrey, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go on these visits, but I'm going to commit to Iowa after."
Yeah.
He was like, "Why are you going?"
Yeah, why?
And I just thought about it. I was like, "Yeah, I guess you're right." So I canceled all those visits. And he was like, "Come out to the Iowa State football game, a rivalry game, commit on the field, like it'll be a huge thing." So I did that. It was a lot of fun, and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, and with those visits though, how was that? How was the experience? Like, what was the best experience you had on one of those visits? Like, what? Even if it wasn't Iowa.
There was. I think.
Like, how did they lay it out for you? What was the best layout? Best jerseys? Yeah.
I think Alabama was one of the best. I think, like I said, talking to Avery Johnson about his experience with Brooke Lopez, but he put. I was in an individual meeting with Nick Saban. Me and my dad, and my mom.
Sick.
That's
awesome. So we got to sit there for an hour with him, ask questions, and do all that. And just like looking at that campus, it's incredible, and all of that. So
Roll Tide.
Yeah. So
I'm getting pissed about the time.
Pissed about nothing but the time.
Exactly. So that was probably the best visit I went on besides that.
Sick.
It's pretty cool though that Fran did a whole special thing for you to be able to go out and announce it on the middle of the field during the rivalry game and stuff. I mean, that's really shows kind of what the faith he had in you even before. Like, hey, this guy's going to be a big deal here.
I don't think anybody's ever done that.
No, it was crazy. Walking out there and like the fans are screaming your name, like those Iowa fans are crazy. At this point, like a high school kid, and they know about you, they know where you're from. Like, and at first, I'm from DC, so like. Even just landing in Iowa, like I was just like, "Where am I?" It's like, it's all flat. I don't see a building in sight. I'm like, where am I? But I fell in love with it, man. It was a really, really fun experience.
Absolutely. Lando?
I just wanted to get into a little bit of your college career. I know from your sophomore to junior year, you went from averaging 13 and 5 to like 24 and 10. Tell us a little bit about some of the changes you made to your game to be able to make that jump in the off season.
Yeah, there was a lot of things. I think one, my sophomore year, we still had Tyler Cook, who was kind of like the main part of our offense, and it was like he was a guy who was a mentor for me, helped me out a lot. And kind of watching him go through what it was like to be at the top of the scouting report, and like being doubled by all these teams and like all that kind of stuff that I learned kind of while I was still playing with him. Through that, because I saw myself being that guy at some point. I just didn't know when that would be. And, I just had another, I feel like every time I go into the off season, I see it as an opportunity. I love that part of basketball. It's like, probably my favorite part about the sport in general is just like the opportunity to like look back at a year you just had, see what you want to improve, and try to go into the summer and improve it, and show up the next year being someone that nobody recognizes. And, I think, there wasn't I wasn't preseason anything, going into my junior year. I wasn't in preseason all Big Ten. And, obviously to make that big of a change, it required a lot of work. And, like I said, I worked really hard with my dad that summer. Also just being on campus, we had a really underrated group of big guys, especially for the Big Ten. Jack Nungy ended up transferring to Xavier, and now he's in, one of the best leagues in Italy. Right. He was like kind of my backup, and we were competing every single day in the off season. Ryan Kriener is another guy who would have been a lot more well known had I not gone to Iowa, because he was that level talented. He was better than a lot of guys, but we competed a lot in practice. So those kind of things pushed me a lot. But I put on a lot of weight. I got a lot bigger, stronger, and I think the biggest change I made was mentally. I put a huge focus on that side of the game of basketball. My sophomore year, my freshman year, I felt at times a little inconsistent. I think I was more, I'm a big overthinker. I want to play well, and you put so much pressure on yourself. Right. I feel like that's the case with so many basketball players. And I really, honestly, after that season, there was a stretch in my sophomore year where I had 5 games in a row, like, more than 20 points. It was like, at that point, like for a sophomore at Iowa, like no one had done that in years or whatever it was in Big Ten play. And then I followed that up with like my first 4 worst games of my career, and that's just summarized kind of mentally where I was at. And the consistency wasn't there. And so I went to my dad. I was like, we got to figure something out on how I can improve in that way. And I found meditation is that like source for me, and I started that going into my junior year. Actually, like one of the first few games of the year, we were playing Michigan top 5 team, and I called my dad. I was like, he had a business partner who was a Sikh who like woke up, meditated every day, and I met him, and like he talked to me about it. But I was like, I don't know. And I was like, had an ankle injury. I didn't know if I was playing. I wasn't feeling right. I was just like, let's just hop on a call, have him lead me through a meditation. Like, let's see how it goes. That was my career high that night. At Michigan, at 44 on the road. I just never felt that much of it in a zone. 27 in the first half. It's just like, but everything was just like in the flow, and I think meditation was what allowed me to get in that headspace to go from there. And then after that, I've been every single game I've played anywhere, I've meditated that day. So that became a big part of my routine, and that allowed me to be consistent. I felt through that was no matter where we were playing, Mackey Arena, anywhere, I just would go in. I was just in such a zone that I felt like my confidence was at all-time high, because I knew before that I put in more work than anybody else, but I felt like there was something hindering me from showing all of it. Right. Yeah. And that was more the mental side, because everyone works on the physical side. Everybody gets in the gym. Everybody does that, but who works on the mental side of the game? Right. So that became a big focus.
So, how were some of those matchups in the Big Ten? Were there some tough ones that stood out more than others?
Yeah, there's so many. Zach Edey, when he came in as a freshman, was like
Twin Towers. That's a big battle right there. That's a big ass battle.
Yeah, no, it was like a bookends of my career. I started out my freshman year was Isaac Haas, who was like a big dude, and then at the end it was Zach Edey. They always had big guys there, Travion Williams.
Always.
and obviously Trace was a really good battle for me always. I think Kofi when he came in the league, just his size and like athleticism at that size was like something I hadn't seen in that league. I mean, also Xavier Tillman was probably the best defender I played in my time there, but Jaren Jackson, there's so many guys that came through, and I feel like I was really lucky to be a part of that kind of those years, and still in the Big Ten with the group of big guys that we had.
Some pretty packed out big man.
Big Ten packs in them.
Yeah,
they always have the big guys there.
Exactly.
So I know you've talked a lot about like mentality and everything like that. Obviously, we heard your long list of accolades that you have while you were at Iowa.
CBS.
Was there anyone that like when you were sitting there training in the summer and stuff that you really visualized? I know you said going into the year you weren't named any preseason anything.
Yeah.
So was there one thing that really kind of like stood out to you of all the stuff you won where you were like, I want to get this award. Like I'm striving for that. Yeah,
that's the interesting part. I never had any intentions or focus on that part of it.
Just playing ball.
What's crazy was I was here in 2014-15. My dad brought me to the Final Four here in Indianapolis, and I went and saw Frank Kaminsky accept the Naismith Award, or one of the National Player of the Year awards, and I saw that. I saw that was really cool, but I never, beyond that, hadn't thought much of it. And so I really was just I was just focused on making sure people knew my name. I wanted to be I wanted to go out there and show all the work that I'd put in. I knew I played against these guys. I'd had some good games against different guys. I was like, I can do this every night, and that was the biggest focus, and helping my team win in any way I could. And I kind of figured it out, through the year when I started seeing some of the more stuff, and like people were putting my name in the National Player of the Year award, contention. I was like, this is crazy. I never imagined that, and and so it was something that was wild, and I think it was better it came that way because I never put a goal or a limit on what I could do. I just went into college and was like, I want to be the best player I can be, and then see what happens. And that's kind of how it ended up for me. It was just all of those things kind of came in. It was something I never was like, I want to be Big Ten Player of the Year. Sometimes you short yourself on goals if you just go for something. It's like, I can be National Player of the Year too. I just was like, you just go out there and hoop and see what happens, and it'll take care of itself.
Absolutely. Definitely worked out. There's no doubt about that.
I thought it was funny. He's like, change up something mentality wise, and had 44-1 games. So might as well stick with it.
That night, it was instant.
Right. Are you superstitious? You follow the same plan? You follow the same thing every game?
Yeah.
What's the routine before the game?
That was like before. That was kind of was the part that was like hard for me. It was like I was too superstitious.
Yeah, I feel that. I think.
And that's when meditation came in. So that became the bulk of now my superstition. I feel like is I gotta meditate.
What's the one thing before a game you have to do? Like that's I gotta fold my clothes a certain way. I gotta wear these certain socks.
No, for me in college, the main one I still do it sometimes, not as much because there's too many games to do. But 2 pancakes, peanut butter, and some maple syrup, and that's
peanut butter. I ain't heard that one before. That must be some Iowa shit.
I
don't know about that.
I've done waffles before, but I've never done pancakes.
That was my pregame meal.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Okay. But no, when you get 82 games, it's too good.
Yeah, I feel that.
That's funny. So going into where you are now in your NBA career, I want to talk about your draft experience. Mm-hmm. Talk us through that day. What were you doing? Who were you around? And kind of the feelings that you had before the draft, or the team's interested in you.
Yeah, for sure. So, going into it, the NBA draft process was kind of crazy for me. I was like I had to make kind of a big transition with my body. In college, playing the way I played, I needed to be a lot bigger. I was around 275 pounds. I was, banging guys and being in the post a lot of pause.
There's the first one.
That was great. But yeah, so I had to slim down a little bit. So I ended up meeting with my agents and all that. They were like, our game plan for the draft is to kind of show you as more of an athlete, try to lose as much weight as we can, kind of show you in a different light, because they knew how well I could shoot the ball, and they wanted to make that kind of a selling point as well. So I went from 275 to at the combine 243. So it was a big change.
Yeah.
And I think and I still felt really good, and still felt like I was able to work in the post and stuff like that. And we went through all these workouts, and I did like 20 some workouts, traveling to different places, and trying to get in workouts with the guys that were slotted ahead of me. But that process is so interesting, guys. Pause again, but they pull out the night before. They pull out the night before of the workout because they don't want to be in a workout with certain guys. Like agents, they kind of play a chess game, where they want to match up against certain people. And obviously, at that point, people didn't want to match up with me. It was. I wish it would have helped me out to be in the draft workouts with guys ahead of me, so I could show.
Which was better.
Yeah, exactly. That was how I felt. But I did well, and as well as I could, and I felt really good about what I did in my pre-draft. But coming to the draft, there was such a, I think, perception around my game, and me on the defensive end and all that stuff, that there was a lot of doubts and stuff like that. And so my agent was like, "Yo, just bring some friends, some family, some close people around. You don't have too big of a party. We don't really know what's going to happen, but we feel pretty comfortable." We knew there was a couple teams that were at the top of the list. Detroit was one of them.
Okay,
that was probably my best workout. And so I knew they had a couple picks. I knew I was like, they had a pick at 37. I was like, they were like, "You're one of two guys. If one guy's there, you're not going to be it." But then we have 52. So I knew I was like kind of good with Detroit. That was kind of where I was thinking. But there was a couple of the teams I felt like I had played really well in the workouts and stuff like that. And the phone just stopped ringing. It was ringing a lot before the draft, but then once you kind of get into the 30s, it was not. It was pretty dry from the agent. Just trying to figure out what it was. But Detroit came around at 52. Isaiah Livers was who they picked. It was actually 41, not 37, but they picked him at. He was the other guy I was in between with. And basically, Troy Weaver, the GM, he called me. He was like, I don't know what this roster looks like, but if you play well in Summer League, I'm going to make room for you. And so that was pretty much my challenge. So draft night wasn't really like a celebration. It was more like, I got to go get it.
Yeah.
Time to grind. And that's kind of, I always feel like in my career, that's where I played the best basketball, is my back is against the wall.
Yeah.
And I went into Summer League, and day one of getting to Detroit, just playing well in training camp. But then I was, second team all Summer League, averaged 15 and 10. And I was able to, surprise some people and show that, there's a, I'm playing different now with less weight and stuff like that. And moving around a little bit better, and still scoring the post, still can shoot the ball. And that helped me, and I was able to sign a two-way in Vegas with Detroit, and then I got converted to a 2-year deal right before training camp. So I was able to, get that done, which was really good. And so it was a unique draft experience. Kind of knowing it was like, I can't celebrate yet. But once I got that deal converted, I was pretty happy.
Yeah, awesome. And bringing up being a two-way player, I don't think people really understand how much of a grind it really is being a two-way player. Talk us about that experience. All the different traveling and stuff you
I know
do.
It's crazy.
Yeah, there's some wild stories just in terms of like days that I've been somewhere and had to you just kind of always have to be ready.
Yeah,
and that's the main thing. There's so many examples I have, like you play 4 games in 5 days, or you'll do something like that. Or I was in Rio Grande. We were playing against the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, the Houston Rockets team. This was actually last year, and we were traveling back to Iowa because the Iowa Wolves is a two-way with Minnesota.
Yep.
So we're in the airport in Dallas. We stopped like halfway. We're still getting to Iowa. I got a call, and they were like, "Yo, you got to come to Atlanta. We play tomorrow." I was like, "I don't got any of my bags." Like the bags were going all the way to Iowa, so I tried to talk to the people at the desk and all of that, and they were like, "You kind of have to go back to Iowa, get your stuff." So I went back to Iowa, got my stuff, went home, slept for like 2 hours, woke up at like 3-4 in the morning.
Damn.
Got on a flight to Atlanta, landed at the airport, straight to shoot around. Got ready and played 18 minutes that night. Played pretty well. But that's kind of like the story of the two-way player. You always have to be ready, and that's how it is. At the drop of a hat, things can change. And last year was like in essence, it showed a lot. Karl Anthony Towns was hurt a lot of the year. Rudy was, so I had to come up quite a bit and play a lot in different situations, and it really helped me. But it's kind of it's a really good thing. You get the tool of the G League to kind of get your confidence and work on your game and get those reps. But then you're always ready to kind of thrown in there and thrown into the fire, and you kind of got to get used to that.
Yeah.
So I guess you get drafted, you get picked up two-way. What's that coming to the NBA moment for you? Either that's G League, NBA, practice.
Sure.
What's that? Oh shit, I'm in the NBA now.
Yeah, no, for me it was like I think our third game this season, we're playing in Philly. And we got a couple bigs in front of me, but it's Joel Embiid, so he's getting everybody in foul trouble. So I knew going into the game, I was like, I got a chance, to get in there tonight.
Yeah.
And
Gotta wall up.
Yeah, for sure. And so everybody gets in foul trouble. It's like 4 minutes left in the first or second quarter, going into halftime, and coach calls my name. I go up in there, and as soon as I walk on the court, like Embiid looks at me, and then he looks at his point guard. He's like, "Yo, let's run the play." Like, he's calling for the post up. He went at me for like every single possession was a post up. Him going at me, and I fouled him a couple times. Whatever, that's natural.
That's natural.
Got to.
But then possession comes around. I pick and pop. I hit a three. And it was my first three in the NBA, so I was hyping. Like I always talk when I'm playing, like I'm just that. So I'm talking to myself, but he thinks I'm talking to him, and so he gets super pissed. And he comes out the next time. He gets like an offense rebound, elbows me out the way, dunks it, screams, gets a tech, and so I'm saying, like I'm going right back at him. And I hit a three the next possession too, and then I start talking to him. You know what I mean? I start yelling at him and all that. Yeah, and. Then halftime ends, and I just like I walk into the locker room at halftime. I'm just like, did that just happen? I was just like, everyone was like, hyping me up and stuff like that. I was like, I couldn't believe it, and it was just 4 minutes at the end of the second quarter. But I was just like, I'm here now, in the NBA and playing against guys of that caliber. And after that, I was able to kind of calm down and realize, I'm here now, and that helped me out a lot. But yeah, it was a crazy experience.
Future MVP going up against him. And
Exactly.
It's no small task there.
Not at all.
How's practicing with Rudy and Kat? I know you said you kind of like to use like players like that as a measuring stick and all that. So how's it in practice having two guys like that are all-star bigs?
For sure. I'm super fortunate to be in the position I am, just being around those guys. I think I'm behind three of the best big men in the league. You got Naz Reid, who I think is the best big off the bench in the league right now, and just you got Rudy Gobert, the best defensive player in the league, and then Karl-Anthony Towns, the best shooting big.
He's got the best of both worlds. Defense.
So I'm learning from all those guys and the different things they do because they do it in such different ways. Naz handling the ball, can shoot the ball, he can do a little bit of everything. Rudy with his defensive prowess, and you can learn from that, even though he's, gigantic. But there's so many things he does, that you don't really see, but helps him out in the defensive end, and you can take away from that. Anybody can, and obviously with Karl, his ability to space the floor, and I see myself as the guy who can space the floor. So it helps a lot. Training camp's always a lot of fun when you really get to go live action against those guys, and obviously. Ones after practice and all that. Like, you realize, you're playing at some high level.
What's that like after practice? Them ones when them days after practice when y'all get to
there,
it.
just going wild, probably.
What's that like?
It's fun.
I heard Kat. He liked that out there when it comes to one-on-one.
It's crazy because people don't realize how well he really shoots the ball. Like if you give him any space, it's over. Right. And, but then he can handle the ball. He can do a lot of different things too. He's really good at getting to his spots. Rudy's just, you wouldn't think it, but in ones he's just so, he's so big that it's like you can't stop him if he wants to get to the rim and he gets you that little elbow to the sternum.
He got moves. He can get to the
sternum right here. You're out the way, but
he got moves to get to the rim. Y'all play what? Block on block.
Yeah, we playing on block too. We do a little bit of everything. And people don't realize about Rudy, but he is one of the hardest workers on his offensive game. You would see him and be like, he's a little bit, but you have to see where he started. You know what I mean? Like he couldn't do any of that years ago. And I know his trainer really well, and he puts the time in on that side of the ball. He wants to really be a good offensive player, and you can see, step by step every year. These 2 years I've been with him, he's doing more comfortable doing different things in the game, shooting a floater now, like things you wouldn't see. On a day-to-day when you watch him play, you just think about blocking shots and stuff like that. But he does really work hard on his offensive game. But no, I mean everybody in the ones is hard to match up with. But and anytime he sees Wanza going on, he's getting it.
Yeah, I know.
He's probably.
He's coming, man.
He winning every ones. You think? Is he usually winning all the ones?
Oh no, definitely not. But he's winning a lot of them. But everybody gets them. Everybody gets a win out here, man. But he definitely wins a lot of them.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you again, coming on. One thing that we do love to ask, so kind of a two-part question, being bucket list sports.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the best atmosphere that you ever played in, and then also tell us a sporting event that you want to go to as a fan and experience.
Okay, I'll start with the second one. I want to go to the Masters. Just to
Okay.
see that.
There you go.
For who?
That's me, man.
It don't matter. I just kind of want to see.
Anybody you don't want to watch in particular?
Yeah, no. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's just to be there.
Yeah.
I've heard so much about it, and I think it's a beautiful game, especially when you can see it in that light. I think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah.
That or Wimbledon tennis.
Yeah.
I love tennis too. Yeah, that's
Cool. I don't know if I could stay
You could
quiet.
cover the whole floor on tennis court.
yeah.
guy.
No, pickleball, man. Pickleball is
Pickleball,
my thing. I'm coming to pickleball. Don't
We
worry.
gonna start that.
I
Don't
might
worry
stop
about
playing
it.
basketball here in a couple of years.
Yeah,
Don't
we
worry.
gonna get to it. Yeah. Shout
I
out
love
Kyle.
pickleball. Yeah.
Pickleball is the next step. Pickleball is the next step. But no, those two would be the events that I definitely want to go to. And me, biggest atmosphere. There's a lot of them. I think for me, my favorite place to play in college was at IU. I just love Assembly Hall. It just feels like you're playing in the museum of basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And
Indiana again. I told y'all.
Go Hoosiers.
That's how it just felt for me. It just felt like an honor to be able to just walk out there.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's probably one of the biggest. I say anytime at the Garden is special, and quick over the comp, the Staples Center is also a very big time. Yeah. Awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much for joining us. You're the man. Everybody,
The
Luka
real
Garza.
Luka. The real Luka. The real Luka.